Hello and good evening. I am Shahin Jurangpati and welcome to this edition of Biz1st Review 360, where we bring a roundup of this week's top business stories and developments which impact the economy. First, a look at stories that made headlines this week.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was addressing the American Chamber of Commerce or AmCham at a luncheon titled Prime Minister Speaks 2017, which was attended by a number of key ministers and US embassy officials as well as other dignitaries.
Last year was a tough one. And a lot of the work we did was below the radar. But it was necessary to stabilize the economy. There is pressure on the rupee. But we have to face it. We have a drought, and drought is going to create more pressure on the rupee. There are many other issues that we face, but as a result of the economic stabilization program, we can take the next step. One is to tackle our balance of payment problem. Secondly is to create employment. Both are interlinked.
The Prime Minister also responded to questions raised during an interactive discussion on key issues of concern.
The bond scam. Everyone thought, okay, done and dusted, it's gone. We're not going to discuss about it anymore. And then you appoint a committee. Then we think, done and dusted, we're not going to talk about it anymore. And then, the COPE, we're thinking, done and dusted, we're not going to talk about it anymore. Debates, we're thinking, done and dusted, we're not going to talk about it anymore. And then you have the President appointing another committee. Oh my God, Mr. Prime Minister, it just keeps coming. What's happening?
This is a democratic country. When the allegation was made, they went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court threw out the case. I appointed a committee, and the committee said, the transaction required further investigation. Thereafter, the COPE took it over. Actually, if the COPE had followed the Pitipana Committee report, we had finished it earlier. Unfortunately, the then chairman of the COPE went on a journey of his own. There was a new parliament. I had the option of appointing a member of the government as chairman of the COPE, knowing that this will be on. I said we'll have a member of the opposition to chair it, and the COPE went into it, and all the members of the COPE gave a unanimous report. On the reasoning, there were differences of opinion. Some came as a footnote, but everyone agreed. And I said, as soon as that was presented, I said, then we'll fix a date for the debate in Parliament. Now, this is what happens in a democracy. In addition to it, I sent it down to the AG and asked the AG what are the steps that should be taken. Don't communicate with me, communicate with the governor of the central bank. So he has communicated with the governor of the central bank. The governor of the central bank has made a complaint to the police because the COPE report said to look at who are the officials, whether it's the former governor or anyone else, whether anyone is responsible and who the authority can take action. So I have done all that. In addition to it, there may be other civil issues that arise, and there's a need also, which has shown the need for new laws.
The section from Mirugama to Kurunagala is considered as the second phase of the Central Expressway. A plaque was unveiled to mark the commencement of work for the second phase of the expressway, which will see construction take place in the areas of Alawa and Kudagammana area on the Girula Road. On the 6th of August 2016, Minister Lakshman Kiriyala laid the foundation stone to commence work on the second phase for the expressway at this very location. The project, which saw two events being organized to commence work on two separate occasions, will cost an estimated 138 billion rupees. A distance of 39.2 kilometers is to be completed by the end of August 2019.
800 acres in Bingiria has been identified to establish a trade zone. The government also has shares in Lindell, which runs the Sabukaskanda trade zone. We are in talks to have a joint venture with the Andhra Pradesh Industrial Infrastructure Corporation to commence the trade zone in Bingiria. It will be the expertise with our lands. There is a US shortwave station in Idanavilla. Following the end of the term, they must hand over the land. We hope to commence a large tourism zone across 500 acres of land. We will bring greater development to this area. In the past, when expressways were constructed, the contract was always given to an overseas enterprise. We had discussions with the Prime Minister and Finance Minister Ravi Nayaka. We discussed with the Economic Subcommittee as well. Therefore, for the first time in Sri Lankan history, the construction contracts have been awarded to local companies. One company has been given 10 kilometers. On previous 4 occasions, separate roads were constructed. One is from Panipitiya to Gaul, then from Gaul to Mathura and the OCH1 and OCH2. These 4 roads were constructed with 100% foreign loans. 68% were given for the locals. And what happened to the other 32%? Everything will be revealed. The development which we undertake will fill your pockets.
At a meeting held to address issues concerning investors from the European Union, Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade, Malik Samaravikrama had said that a single window for investment would be established where investors would be able to obtain approval for their projects in Sri Lanka within 2 weeks. The press release by BOI also says that by March 2017, there would be a new structure that would focus on investment promotion. It is unclear whether the new structure mentioned in the communique is linked to the so-called Agency for Development. Incidentally, the BOI media release also notes that Managing Director for the Agency for Economic Development, Mangalayapa, was also present during the meeting with the EU delegation. The Development Special Provisions Bill, which carried provisions to set up this agency, was defeated in 7 provincial councils over concerns that it may weaken the power of provincial councils. The Development Special Provisions draft bill is to be presented in Parliament this month with amendments.
On international business, India launches recovery budget after demonetization fiasco, and social media giant Facebook shares rise with higher quarterly profits and revenue.
Facebook shares rose more than 2% in after-hours trading on Wednesday, the 1st of February, as the world's largest online social network reported higher than expected quarterly profit and revenue, helped by continued growth in mobile advertising. The results offered some reassurance to investors who have been concerned since the company warned in November that ad growth would likely slow meaningfully due to limits on ad load, the total number of ads Facebook can show to each user. Facebook has faced doubts about whether it can continue its runaway success in the face of such limits, as well as its absence from the Chinese market, and criticism about its handling of so-called fake news posts during the last year's US election. The company suffered a slight setback just before the market closed when a jury in Texas ordered Facebook, its virtual reality unit Oculus, and other defendants to pay a combined $500 million to ZeniMax Media, a video game publisher that says Oculus stole its technology. Mobile ad revenue accounted for 84% of the company's total advertising revenue of $8.63 billion in the fourth quarter that ended on the 31st of December, compared with 80% a year earlier. Facebook is expected to generate about $29.71 billion in mobile ad revenue in 2017, according to research firm eMarketer, up about 35.2% from 2016.
We'll stay with Biz1st Review 360 because coming up after the break, yacht sailing in search of pristine beaches and deserted islands in the Pork Bay. Welcome back to Biz1st Review 360. Sapphire, a 53-feet sailing catamaran built in Sri Lanka, set off on a new sailing adventure to the Pork Bay. Let's have a look.
Travellers to Sri Lanka now have a whole new way of discovering the island with the launch of yacht cruises along the south, eastern and northwestern coasts. Sail Lanka, a charter company with more than 5 catamaran sailboats operational, is gearing up to sail the Sapphire, a 4-cabin yacht on a 6-day adventure cruise to the Pork Bay. Pork Bay Islands, a virgin part of Sri Lanka, will be a totally new sailing adventure with visits planned to Thalaimanna, Palaitivu, Nainativu, Delft, Kachutivu and Adams Bridge.
Tourist development in a country like Sri Lanka is not only depending on building hotels, because basically a hotel offers you 4 walls, a bathroom and some facilities. What the tourist expects is an experience. It's to come into circumstances which he cannot find at home. So we are offering such an experience. Most of the clients which come on our boats have never been on a yacht. They have never been even on the sea. Far away from being on a yacht with a sail as the main engine of propulsion. And what we offer is to discover Sri Lanka with the 2 facets, the sea facet and also the land-based facet. The sea facet is very simple, you know, is the seawater, is the sun, is the wind, is being alone, because in many tourist spots you are surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands of tourists. You know, at the swimming pool sometimes you have traffic jams to have, you know, at the buffets. Here you are on your own. The sea is basically one of the only places on the planet where there is real freedom. There are no traffic jams and there are no real strict constraints for you to move around.
Pringia says the Sapphire catamaran was built in Sri Lanka at a cost of $650,000 or 100 million rupees with local talent pooled together and trained at Building a Foundation, a non-profit organization. Sri Lanka Charter is a spin-off of the non-profit organization Building a Future Foundation, created in 2006 as a long-term extension of the Solidale Lodestar Rehabilitation Trust, a post-tsunami reconstruction program.
The origin of our project actually comes from a foundation, the Building a Future Foundation, which was created after the tsunami and which has as a mission to train youngsters in all the skills required for boat building and boat operation. So this is our DNA. So we train every year 60 to 100 youngsters on the south coast of Sri Lanka, in Kabalana and Gokala. We take them from the whole south coastal area. We have no shortage of skilled people because we've spent money in training them. And so that's basically the message I would say, that if you train people and you take them fresh from the school, you train them in the skills that are required, and you cultivate the passion for these young guys for what they are going to build. I can tell you the trainees who have an in-plant training after their theoretical lessons, they come into the boatyard and they participate in the finishing or the building of this boat. When this boat is launched, they are there. They are pushing the boat into the water. They are proud of it. You know, they make a kind of a cry, like a victory cry, as satisfaction. So this creates unbelievably skilled people, and I think these people are happy and content to work and to work here. And so that's basically a tradition that we have to reintroduce. And if we are successful, if we can earn money, we can pay the people better. There's no need to go to the Middle East.
Experts say the venture is a good example of foreign investment and technology being used to build local and generate employment.
On our segment Trending Today, we feature the power of nature in transforming something negative to something beautiful.
The landscape at Ussuri Bay in Russia looks like a dream destination, with a shoreline decked with colorful jewels instead of stones. But this is real. Known as the Glass Beach for many years, Ussuri Bay was hardly pristine. The site was a dump ground for broken vodka bottles and cracked porcelain. During the Soviet era, truckloads of bottles and damaged china was dumped here, turning the bay into a huge glass dump. Over time, the waves smoothed away sharp edges, tossing and rolling the glass shards in the water. Today, they have transformed into beautiful pebbles, making the beach multicolored. Thanks to Mother Nature, the Ussuri Bay now boasts of having one of the most beautiful and unique beaches one could ever see.
We now cross over for a short commercial break. On the other side, a chat with a top academic on service quality.
We're not in the ICU, but we're clearly in hospital.
Without the Chinese, there's no economic growth.
Partnership with the private sector is an absolute must.
After almost 2 years, we have seen nothing.
There are no political answers. Investments are coming in. That's why they are trying to stop it.
If somebody is scared of competition, something is wrong with that person.
We can create jobs, bring in investors,
create more entrepreneurs.
Lay a foundation is for southern development, nothing to do with the poor.
Biz1st Review 360, the pulse of Sri Lankan business.
Welcome back. You are watching Biz1st Review 360. Newsfirst journalist Stephanie Lazarus caught up with Professor A. Parasuraman, a highly acclaimed academic whose research aimed to capture consumer expectations, perception of service and measurement of service quality.
Well, Professor, first of all, Sri Lanka as a country was at least slated to be driven by agriculture or agricultural sector, but things have turned around now. Experts have shown that it's not agriculture that leads or drives the economy, it's services. But at this juncture, what do you think Sri Lanka should really work on in order to make this one of the vital driving forces of the economy?
Well, I think Sri Lanka is at a very, very opportune moment now to capitalize on this change in the mindset from an agriculture-based economy to more of a service-based economy. A number of other countries are already, becoming heavily service-focused. And one of the challenges, though, when you want to be a highly successful service-focused economy, is that services, when compared to physical products or manufactured products, are difficult to define, understand, measure, and improve. My interest 30 years ago on this subject of quality of service, quality of the customer experience, also stemmed from this need for some new thinking and new knowledge. And that's what produced the so-called CERQUAL model, and also preceding that, the so-called GAPS model of service quality. So I think given that there is the realization that the Sri Lankan economy is much more of a service economy, there is excellent potential. And I think one other observation I would make is that this is my very first visit to Sri Lanka, and second day in Sri Lanka, in fact. This is a beautiful country from what I've seen, what little I've seen. I've seen more of it in the next couple of days. And it's a tourism destination. When you think of tourism, it is all customer service and hospitality.
Right.
I mean, you have the natural resources. So I think it's a great opportunity to apply some of the scientific principles, which are actually quite basic in terms of their application.
Right. So you've come up with one of the prominent models in the service sector, which is the CERQUAL model,
Yes.
which means that through services can be measured.
Yes.
So you are giving businesses a tool to measure it. But my question to you is, how do you individually measure the quality of service? How do you individually measure the hospitality, the confidence of the people?
Very good question. Just like the proverb says, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Here, when it comes to customer service, the beholder is the customer. So I think along with the change in the mindset from an agriculture, manufacturing-oriented economy to more of a service economy, organizations and particularly companies specifically need to sort of understand that quality, especially service quality, is defined by the customer, not by the company. So the whole CERQUAL model is based on the fact that you need to start with the customer. How do customers evaluate quality of service? If you're manufacturing a car or a computer or an iPhone or whatever it is, manufacturers can set quality specifications because you're dealing with something concrete, right? But when what you're measuring is hospitality or the experience that tourists have in Sri Lanka as they're traveling, that is much more difficult to define. So, but you need to go back to the customers and find out what is it that they expect. All customers do have some mental benchmarks about what excellence, in terms of how they are treated, how they feel, really means. And then they compare that with what they actually get from a given service provider, be it a hotel or an airline or a restaurant. So that is as simple as that. Customers, and typically there is a gap. So what the CERQUAL instrument or measurement approach does is very systematically looks at that gap and tries to understand what are different attributes on which customers make this evaluation.
Right.
So there are 5 major categories. For example, one of the categories is reliability of the service. Reliability of the service simply means, does the service organization deliver on the promises it makes to customers.
And with social media coming in, the process is made even easier for people
to share their experiences.
Yes.
You know, you can share. Customers today can share their experiences right on the spot with hundreds and thousands of their friends by posting on social
And
media.
how much of a challenge is it for businesses? As in, now the businesses have to really work towards it even harder than they did before.
Yes, absolutely. They more than ever, the businesses have to now stay on their toes all the time. And what the circ wall type of approach does is it gives a template of different kinds of attributes that customers might be thinking about, and therefore companies should be proactively focusing on.
Right.
You know, a lot of companies make mistakes in treating customers well or delivering services, and then they try to recover from it. And some of them don't even try. You know, they immediately put the fault on the customer. They say, you don't know how busy we are. You know, wait. Or that kind of rude treatment of customers. That is not good quality customer service, right? So the circ wall model and the approach, suggests some starting templates that companies can beforehand use as they design their services and as they plan to deliver the services, so that when the actual delivery does occur, the gap is as small as possible.
Do you think the education system has given enough attention on services?
Education, I don't think has done, in my opinion, again, this is not based on any research or anything, but my impression is that the quality of the customer service as a subject in and of itself is still not widespread.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of courses on psychology, consumer behavior in the marketing field and so forth. But I think more can be done about how do individuals serve each other and serve others.
It was a lovely conversation with you, Professor Parasuraman. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's my pleasure as well.
Are you an aspiring entrepreneur or an innovator with an amazing idea? If you are, this advice is for you.